This season of Advent, we will be adding into our scripture readings opportunity to hear God's experiences with people in our society through the words of poets. This reading is from the poet Mary Oliver, her poem Today. Today I'm flying low, and I'm not saying a word. I'm letting all the voodoos of ambition sleep. The world goes on as it must, the bees in the garden rumbling a little, the fish leaping, the gnats getting eaten, and so forth. But I'm taking the day off, quiet as a feather. I hardly move, though really I'm traveling a terrific distance. Stillness, one of the doors into the town. Grace and peace to you from our Emmanuel God, God with us. Amen.
Amen.
Be still and know that I am God, the psalmist reminds us. The creation stories of Genesis state that ruah, the Hebrew word for breath, is elemental to our very being and existence. God breathed life into us and into our ancestors, and God yet breathes life into us and all of creation. The Hebrew scriptures speak to the significance of holy ground. Moses and other prophets met God at liminal spaces, such as the top of a mountain, or met God face to face, like when Jacob wrestled an angel. Jesus went away from his family and his friends to isolated places, such as the mountains or the sea, to pray and be still in the presence of God. God, God's self, created and then role modeled Sabbath, taking a rest from labor. Stillness, moments of breath, holy spaces, and Sabbath are foundational to who we are as the people of God. This season of Advent is a time of manifestation for these foundational practices and ethos. In this church liturgical season in which we prepare for Christ's incarnation at Christmas time, and also live with hopeful expectation of Christ's fullness to come and be embodied throughout God's kingdom of heaven and earth, we are invited to faithfully prepare. We're invited to prepare in stillness and prayer, in wonder, and in Sabbath rest. For some of us, this Advent invitation may be a challenge. Like Martha in Luke's Gospel, we are easily distracted by tasks, or we may be focused on what needs to be accomplished, thinking about rest as the end of a long to-do list once we've checked everything off that we need to accomplish. Or we may not even want to take a moment for stillness, because it might mean that we're alone with our thoughts, our worries, our fears, or even just alone at all, without family, our friends, our community by our side. Unlike addictions of any form, in our society, tasks and labor, work, these are acceptable ways to lose ourselves, to conceal the wounds and the hurts that we carry. For others, this Advent invitation may be a challenge in a different way. Stillness and Sabbath may seem dreary and isolating, especially for those whose living situations may have changed due to aging or medical conditions. When I recently visited one of our members at Seasons of Maplewood, she and I had a lovely chat. I showed her pictures of my kids, and she showed me pictures of her grandkids and great-grandkids. And then she wisely stated this word of advice to me. When I was young and a mother, I longed for time to rest. All I wanted was time alone, she said. I'd even go to the bathroom and shut the door and stay in there a little longer to have a break from my kids. But now, I have all the time in the world to rest. And I miss the busyness of my kids and grandkids. I look forward to when they visit. She went on and continued to share with me all the ways that God had been with her from her birth to her current age in her 90s. and she expressed gratitude for it. But she wondered, what does Sabbath rest mean for her now at this age of her life? When do you sit in stillness with Jesus at his feet like Mary? What does Sabbath mean to you? Is it a time for prayer or wonder? Is it a time to go off to the mountains or the seas? How are you present with God? Are you like my cousin Matt and you love to go snowboarding in the mountains and go whizzing down the mountains as your Sabbath time? What distracts you from being present with Jesus Christ? What are those things that you keep adding to your to-do list that keep you from taking time to breathe, to wonder? When do you sit in stillness? I have a problem myself with stillness. I am too much like Martha. I like tasks. I like tasks somewhat because I am one of those people who likes to check things off a to-do list, and I feel good when I check them all off. And if I leave my workday and there are things undone, I fret about it. My husband is constantly saying, let it go, like the song in Frozen. He'll just sing it out, let it go, let it go, let it go. It's important at times that we have tasks and we do our labor because it maintains our relationships, right? It maintains our relationships in our professional employment, in our family, with our friends, in society. But sometimes we can go too far the other way. We forget that we are meant to have times of rest, times to be still and hear God. I know for myself, those reasons I stated earlier are very true. I don't like to be alone with myself because then I have to think about my fear. I have to think about my anxiety. I have to think about the grief that I carry. On those rare days that I get to be home and my children are at daycare, which those days are amazing now, you'll find me cleaning the house, or building a storage shed, or trimming trees, or paying bills, or filing paperwork. David will get home from work and be, what did you enjoy about your day? And I'll be like, oh, I did all of these things. But that's the opposite of what my dream Sabbath day looks like. A leisurely morning hike through the woods, an afternoon of drinking a book while sipping wine on the patio, and an evening of competitive board games with my best friends. Why? Why can I not let things go? Long ago, I realized I was a lot like Martha, very easily distracted by tasks. I was envious of Mary and my younger sister, Samantha, who can just sit there and be present with Jesus, who can sit and be present with God's people. It's only in the last decade of my life that I've realized that we all have a little bit of Mary and Martha in each of us. Some a little more than other, and that God needs all of who we are for God's kingdom and labor of love on this earth. It's amazing. It's amazing how God can take who we are and how God shows up in our lives, isn't it? It's even more amazing when we have taken that time for stillness, to wonder, to rest. Because I don't know about you, but for me, it opens my heart so I can actually see God at work. So that I can recognize when Christ is present in my neighbor, in the stranger, in the family member, in the person beside me, or even myself. This last week was one of Thanksgiving for many of us. It was a week for me this last Wednesday when I woke up so excited for my to-do list. I was going to go visit this person and this person and this person. I was going to write my sermons. I was going to get to church. I was going to help Rob cook the meal for Wednesday nights. I was going to be there and be involved all day. And then my husband said those words that no working parent wants to hear. Daycare and school is closed today. It's a snow day. Oh, a snow day? Those were the best when I'm a kid, but now? No, thank you. Go to daycare, child. Go. I have things to do. I have things I need to do. frustration about how school is canceled way too easily these days. And in my generation, we had to go to school on a snow day. My husband and I figured out our child care plan, our shifts, so that we both could kind of do work and child care that day. My turn was up for the morning. I realized that I needed to reset myself. I needed to reframe my thinking, to reclaim the fun of what a snow day used to mean when I was a child. And so I gathered my 2-year-old daughter and my 5-month-old son and our jammies, and we just hung out and played all morning. It was so beautiful, precious time that I usually don't get to have with them. I was amazed at the way God showed me things in my kids that I may not have been aware of on another day, if it wasn't a snowy day and we were all stuck inside together. Violet can sing Wheels on the Bus now. She knows all of the words and the motions at the same time. She has coordination, a skill that I lack. It's beautiful. My 5-month-old son has learned how to sit up only in this last week. And on Wednesday, because he learned how to sit up, I gave him pureed foods for the first time. Green beans, and that kid was like, "This is the best thing, Mom. I love green beans." I would have had those moments of wonder and delight if I hadn't been able to just say, "I will be still," and see where Christ is present. Later that day, after lunch, when David and I swapped turns for who was staying with our children, I found my way, on my way to work, stopping in at Our Lady of Peace Hospice Center. Pastor John had texted me to ask if I could visit Cliff that day, the day before Thanksgiving. And so I didn't know what to expect when I walked into Cliff Potter's room. I didn't know if he would be asleep or awake or how he was doing. I had just known that he had entered into hospice care. When I walked in and knocked on his door, he turned over, smiled his big grin, and said, "Hi, Pastor Amanda." And I said, "Hi, Cliff. Happy Thanksgiving." Pulling up a chair and sitting next to Cliff and holding his hand, we said a prayer together and then talked about the day to come, Thanksgiving Day. Cliff was looking forward to spending the day with his family. We shared out loud the things that we were grateful for in our lives. Cliff was thankful that God had been present with him through so many struggles and joys in his life. Thanking God for God's love and forgiveness, for the great care he was receiving at the end of his life, for the love that he knew with family and friends and here at this congregation. When I told him how much we missed him and how many people had asked about him and asked where he was staying so they could go and visit him, Cliff smiled and said, "Tell them this. Say, I miss you too." And so I share Cliff's words with you, not knowing that Cliff is going to die this weekend. Cliff cared about this congregation. He knew Christ through you, and he, I hope, was Christ to you as well. I remember Cliff as our greeter and our usher and pretty much everything for worship and assistance here at the second service, trying to make sure that Pastor John and I had everything we needed for service time. He would greet people at the door and with a big smile, and I don't think it was just reserved for me, but I would always get a famous Cliff hug and a "How are you doing, dear, today?" He liked to check in on people. He offered encouragement and support. I don't think that Cliff would mind if I share this because he asked me to share it years ago with people. My first week when I showed up here as a pastor, Cliff came into my office and he said, "I have a story to tell you. And I have a story to tell you because I need other people to know it's their story too." Cliff was a recovering alcoholic for many, many years. He He showed up in that office that day many years ago to tell me his story and struggle with alcoholism and his years of being in recovery and his desire to be someone who could support others going through that hard journey too. He showed up with a copy of the AA book and said, "You need to read this, Pastor Amanda. It saved my life. And I needed to save other people's lives too." I know that when I have had people who have come to me, whose family members have struggled with addiction, Cliff has been one of the people I have sent them to here at Gustavus. And I know he has reached out and talked with them. He shared his unique gifts, his unique life experiences with others and with Christ present with other people. As I departed last Wednesday, I asked Cliff for one favor, and he said, "What do you need, dear?" And I said, "I need a Cliff hug." And so he gave me a big hug. I had no idea that would be the last time that I would see him. My heart simply knew the psalmist's words, "Be still and know that I am the Lord." Sometimes I can be so easily distracted by tasks that I forget that Christ is right there in front of me. That to-do list wasn't even important, was it? That day Christ showed up in so many different ways, as Christ does every day in our lives. It's amazing how God is at work when we take time to be still and notice. How are you sitting at Jesus' feet this Advent season? When are you going to take moments of Sabbath and rest and wonder so that you can see God right beside you too? In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.